Now the last section that we're going to look at is separation. And here's a good flowchart to look at the two types of separation. One's voluntary and the other one's involuntary. So under voluntary, people retire or resign or leave the organisation of their own free will. In times of bad economic times, there may be involuntary separations through retrenchment, and in other cases, if there's been improper procedures followed or something that has happened that has not been specified, and it is outside of normal working guidelines, an employee may be dismissed, which in a lot of cases will lead to redundancy. Under the Fair Work Act, there's requirements and provisions for people to be paid out based on the years of service, and in some instances some leave and non-service leave will be paid out as well as their superannuation entitlements and so forth. The Fair Work Act also deals with unfair dismissal. In some instances, people are dismissed unfairly, and under the current laws, you cannot be dismissed because of absence due to work or from work due to illness. The fact that you belong to a trade union, you cannot be dismissed based on race, colour, sex, sexual preference, age, disability, marital status, family responsibility, pregnancy, religion, political opinions, or ethnicity. When an employee needs to be dismissed, it's up to the employer to go through the set down procedures to make sure that all chances have been given to the employee to prove themselves, so they're not dismissed unfairly. Some people say this makes an unfair burden, or place an unfair burden upon employers, and this can, in some instances, decrease the incentive for employers to employ more workers, and this may also lead to an increased casualisation of the workforce. Now I'd like you to check your understanding again, this time on page 278, questions 1, 3 and 7 please. So that completes the employment cycle, also called the human resource cycle. Remember the essential questions I'll talk to you about on the first section. What makes a good employee? And what makes a job a good place to work? They're the essential questions that I want you to keep remembering, please, when we study this unit. The understanding's just a brief recap. The steps involved in employing a new employee, that's steps 1 and 2 of the employment cycle. What makes a good employee from an employer's perspective, as well as from an employee's perspective when you look at what makes a workplace a good place to work. So that's talking about training, development and maintenance. And in that, what strategies are used to maintain and develop employees in the workplace, and the impacts of employment relation laws on employees and employers. And lastly, I haven't discussed too much about this, the impact of industrial disputes on the workplace and community are generally pretty obvious when we talk about stoppages, reduction of productivity, employee dissatisfaction and so forth. So hopefully this has all been useful to you to understand the employment cycle and the associated laws and the impacts, and we'll be reinforcing this with other case studies and one big inquiry. Thanks for listening, and I hope it's been useful to you.